Good evening and welcome back to News 11. I'm Lily Hauer.
And I'm Matt Volz.
We have a lot of exciting stories to cover, so let's get started with your local news. This past weekend, Mayville debuted their annual Winter Festival with their largest ice castle yet. The annual festival was set to be canceled this year, but after community members rallied to work together, they pulled off the best one yet. The ice castle, which had been under construction for over 2 weeks, was made of 1,800 blocks of ice, all harvested from Chautauqua Lake. This year, the castle had 3 main structures fit with a courtyard and 2 fire pits, which were used throughout the festival's weekend. The castle, which was unveiled at 6 p.m. on Friday night, was built by many volunteers, including 40 students from BOCES, working with a team of 18 adult volunteers, and students from Chautauqua Lake Central School pitched in as well. This castle was not only the largest ever seen, but was also the first castle since 2019 built truly out of ice. The castle was a great addition to an overall great festival, with a medallion hut, selfie and karaoke contest, an antique roadshow, face paintings, and fireworks to top it all off. The city of Mayville is thankful and amazed by the community and its support, and all who helped to pull this off, and made it the best festival yet.
Electrovaya Incorporated is now planning to open their Gigafactory sooner than expected in Ellicott. Company officials announced in January that the newest factory would open sometime in the second quarter, which meant anywhere from April to June, with them now expecting it to be open in April. As there is potential for new U.S. tariffs, the company has been pushed to move fast. Electrovaya has also paid off all their debts associated with its property in Ellicott, and the company is finalizing loan documentation and financing packages to support the expansion, which is expected to be finished by June. The factory plan remains to begin as a battery system assembly, with battery cell production starting mid-2026. The facility will begin hiring and training shortly, as a lot of equipment has already been installed in the factory. Although President Donald Trump's tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada have been paused, the company is looking for a North American-based supply chain to help mitigate the tariffs' impact on their company while opening up to potential new customers.
Local ski resorts expect to be packed with families hitting the slopes after the most recent snowstorm and bringing traffic to many businesses. This winter has been a dream for skiers and snowboarders in Ellicottville, as well as business owners who have seen a boost in business. The favorable weather has resulted in more skiers and snowboarders showing up, resulting in more business for the area. Spencer Timke, owner of the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, said, quote, "We draw from such a large circle geographically. We have 2 premium resorts here in Holiday Valley and Hollymont, and they're coming to ski and snowboard. And when they do that, they want to eat and they want to shop. To be able to provide them with all those great options, it just makes people so much happier and more likely to keep visiting," end quote.
This summer, Fredonia will celebrate the 200th anniversary of one of its most historic moments, the visit of Revolutionary War hero General Marquis de Lafayette. The Lafayette Bicentennial Jubilee will take place from May 30th to June 6th, commemorating Lafayette's arrival in the village on June 4th, 1825. The week-long celebration features a range of events, including a reenactment of Lafayette's arrival on June 3rd in Barker Commons, timed to match his historic 1825 visit, exhibitions and lectures at the Darwin R. Barker Museum, a festival with period musical performances and food vendors, and Tea with the Marquis, an 1820s-era tea and dance at Grange 1. Lafayette was a French aristocrat and military officer who played a crucial role in the American Revolution, serving as a major general at just 20 years old and becoming a close confidant of George Washington. In 1824 and 1825, at the invitation of Congress and President James Monroe, Lafayette embarked on a grand tour of the United States as one of the last surviving generals of the Revolution. When Lafayette arrived in Fredonia, crowds from across northern Chautauqua gathered to welcome him. Despite a delayed arrival after midnight, residents celebrated with gun salutes, music, and candlelit windows. Lafayette addressed the crowd with a heartfelt speech before departing for Dunkirk Harbor at sunrise to continue his journey to Buffalo.
The town of Cheektowaga is currently one of many cities experiencing a salt shortage due to their roads. The shortage comes from an American Rock Salt, which is Erie County's contracted supplier, as they try and keep up with the demands for distribution, which has now led to delays. The town supervisor has said that they have enough to supply to keep the roads salted this past weekend, but moving forward they may have to look into other options to keep the roads safe. The town is already exploring options to prevent any shortages from occurring in future winters.
A serial shoplifter at the Walden Galleria Mall has been sentenced to 3.5 to 7 years in prison. The incidents were between January and April of 2023. Buffalo resident Gary White stole over $5,000 in merchandise, mostly clothing. He pled guilty to the charges as well as signed trespassing notices with the appropriate retailers.
A child suffered minor injuries after getting pinned between two vehicles in a Walmart parking lot. The child was caught between the two cars after one was backing out of a parking spot. North Tonawanda Police Chief Keith Glass says it was, quote, a slow-speed minor fender bender, end quote. The child suffered a leg injury and the driver of the vehicle was ticketed by the police for, quote, unsafe backing, end quote.
Correctional officers for prisons across the Western New York region are on strike. The New York State Correctional Officer and Police Benevolent Association, or NYSCOPBA for short, has stated that 25 correctional facilities are currently on strike. The strike follows the enforcement of the HALT Act, which limits the actions officers can use to discipline an inmate, including solitary confinement. Strikers are asking for the repeal of the HALT Act, as well as a limit on how many officers can be removed or reassigned from a position. Governor Hochul has claimed the strike to be unlawful and has made no movement to compromise with them. From current estimates, it looks like the strike will be lasting for quite a while. As of today, the state plans to deploy the New York State Guard to try and quell the strikers.
Governor Kathy Hochul and the New York State Thruway Authority are warning New Yorkers about a new E-ZPass text message scam targeting drivers. Scammers are sending texts from international phone numbers, asking recipients to reply "Y" to receive a link. That link directs users to an unofficial website, according to the New York State Thruway Authority. Officials say E-ZPass and tolls by mail will never request personal information through text or email. This includes credit card details, birthdays, social security numbers, or other identifying information. A legitimate message from E-ZPass will come from the number 39769 and will start with EZPNY. It will also include official websites like tollsbymailny.com or EZPassNY.com. If you receive a suspicious text, officials urge you to contact E-ZPass at 1-800-333-8655 or tolls by mail at 1-844-8-268-400 or email EZPassNY at thruway.ny.gov for assistance. Complaints about fake text messages can be filed through the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center.
The National Comedy Center is offering free admission for kids and teens starting this Saturday and lasting until April 19th. With every adult, 2 kids 17 and under can get into the National Comedy Center Museum and the Lucille Ball Desi Arnaz Museum for free. Adults are still required to have purchased tickets. The museum is open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thursdays through Mondays. For more information, visit comedycenter.org/kids and teens. And when we return, we'll have your national stories. We'll be right back.
To Sofia and Gabriel, Miss Flores, my little flowers. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love, so you can take me with you wherever you go, near or far. These stitches and threads join us together. Me, your mother, and both of you. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Water levels continue to rise on waterways in Kentucky and portions of the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. Rescue efforts are ongoing in the regions, and at least 237 people were evacuated by helicopter and boat from apartment complexes in Martin County, Kentucky. The storm has killed at least 14 people. However, several others are still missing in significant levels of flooding in West Virginia. The National Weather Service warned Monday by saying, quote, stream and river levels will continue to rise over the next few days in some areas, and this could cause new flooding to develop, end quote. Power outages are widespread, hitting upwards of 65,000 people without power across West Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. Most of these states have declared states of emergency and have been given federal aid funding through a federal disaster declaration.
Federal budget cuts have caused a park ranger to be let go on his very first day. Brian Gibbs put on the gray ranger uniform and walked into work only to immediately receive a termination notice. The National Park Service was forced to terminate thousands of their employees to meet their budget. Since taking office in January, President Trump and Elon Musk have made massive budget cuts to any and all departments, including essential areas such as the National Park Service. It is estimated that 77,000 federal workers were let go within the last month. Gibbs found out about his termination when he was logged out of his email account before he was even partway through his first shift. Workers and their families are currently taking to social media to complain about the recent actions taken by the federal government.
Southwest Airlines said Monday it will cut 15% of its corporate workforce, which will equal around 1,700 people, the first mass layoffs in the company's history. The cuts will start in April and will include 11 senior leadership positions, which include vice presidents and above, that are planned to be eliminated. Southwest CEO Bob Jordan said in a note to employees on Monday, calling the layoffs a, quote, very difficult and monumental shift, end quote. The company started the year with a new chief financial officer, Tom Doxey, who most recently was president of Breeze Airways. Southwest took a financial hit after an operational meltdown caused nearly 17,000 flights to be canceled in late December's busy holiday travel week. The airline's employees blamed outdated scheduling software that made its operations difficult to recover from seasonal bad weather. Southwest's previous chief financial advisor, Tammy Romo, and chief administration officer, Linda Rutherford, will also retire from their positions in April of 2025.
The identity of the infamous English serial killer Jack the Ripper seems to have been identified. A historian, Russell Edwards, was able to isolate DNA from a shawl that was recorded to have been worn by Jack the Ripper. Edwards brought the shawl back in 2007 that was found at the scene of the murder of Catherine Eddowes, one of Jack the Ripper's victims. The serial killer is thought to be Aaron Kosminski, who is a Polish immigrant and barber in Whitechapel, England. Kosminski was a long-term patient in a mental health facility and was diagnosed with schizophrenia. For more information, you can find all of Edwards' findings in his new book titled, quote, Naming Jack the Ripper, The Definitive Reveal, end quote.
A baby crab found by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has been stealing the hearts of many and taking the internet by storm. Let's take a look at the little guy. The NOAA has described the crab as a, quote, spiky, tiny bundle of cuteness, end quote. The tiny creature hitched a ride with scientists as the team was working to collect samples in the Gulf. He was found clinging to a plastic bag and has since then been given to the Smithsonian Institution. Some fans adored the little critter so much they even created fan art. The crab was discovered on one of the many restoration efforts of the seafloor.
A Nebraska real estate agent walked into her home to see little brown footprints from her porch to her couch. To her surprise, there was a very full possum laying on her couch with the remains of a chocolate Costco cake next to the couch. The woman tried to shoo the critter away but realized she was panting and the cake may have been toxic to her. The homeowner called Nebraska Wildlife Rehab to assess the animal, and the possum was admitted to the center. She is now being treated for lead poisoning unrelated to the cake eating, but otherwise would have gone undetected in the wild animal. She has been affectionately called the Cake Bandit, and people online have come to relate to this possum. The Nebraska Wildlife Rehabilitation Center even made merch with the Cake Bandit on the front and her admission note on the back. And when we return, I will be giving you our sports update, and we'll have Lily for your first look at weather. We'll be right back.
guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency.
So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down. Post office.
Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law.
Takes no time, just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service.
When you think of the local lowdown, what do you think of?
Well, when I think of the local lowdown, it's the live music that we have played in the studio.
It's got to be the laughs we shared. The memorable moments during the whole thing. Oh my God, so fun.
The local lowdown for me is the people behind the scenes, the amazing team that we have making the show.
Oh, it's gotta be exploring all sorts of genres and music I've never heard before.
Oh, easy. Going out to shows and talking to artists and getting the latest news on what they have planned for the future.
It's about these artists, man. Giving them a platform to showcase what they've worked so hard on and show their music to the community. It's all about supporting the local scene of music to keep it running for years to come. And of course, the band merch. You can't forget about the merch.
Matt will now be giving us our weekly sports update. What's going on in sports, Matt?
Thanks, Lily. The Fredonia Blue Devils hockey team was eliminated from the SUNYAC postseason this past Saturday after falling 4-3 at Plattsburgh. The score was back and forth for the whole game, but Plattsburgh ultimately pulled ahead. Fredonia goals were scored by Sam Trinka, and Gavin Bloater had 2 goals. Goaltender Jamison Kane had 37 saves. The Blue Devils wrap up their season this weekend at Buffalo State. Spring sports are fully underway as well, with the Kane Invitational Meet opening up the track and field season for the Blue Devils. Multiple personal records were set for the women's team, including Brayden Trippy clearing 1.59 meters in the high jump, Callie Hudson clocking in a 5-minute and 39-second mile, and Holly Rohrbach recording 3 minutes and 36 seconds in the 1,000-meter dash. The men's team also had an impressive meet. Jordan Lockett clocked a PR time of 7.07 seconds in the 60-meter dash, and Quillen Shimp clocked a personal record of 7.54 seconds in the same event. Edward Jordan also hit a personal best of 1 minute 29 seconds in the 800-meter run. The Blue Devils compete next week at Nazareth University. Always interesting when spring sports can get rolling. Hopefully a sign that the weather will warm up a little bit. We certainly hope so, because walking into the studio tonight, it was cold.
It was pretty brutal.
It's certainly, I mean, it's to be expected with Fredonia in February for sure. But yeah, walking in, even in our studio, we've remarked it's pretty cold.
It's pretty cold in here.
It's very cold down here. Not actively snowing at the moment outside, but still definitely very cold for sure. So I'm going to hand it over to you now for our weather forecast. What do you have for us, Lily?
All right, thanks, Matt. Today we say a typical wintry day in Fredonia with a cloudy sky and a high of 19 degrees. We also saw winds between 10 and 15 miles per hour today, making the real feel outside 0 degrees. We will see this winter weather continue through tomorrow with a high of 20 degrees and a low of 17. We again will see winds up to 20 miles per hour and a 60% chance of snow showers throughout the day as well. We are expected to get between 1 and 3 inches of snow. We have some good news for your weekend weather, so stay tuned for your weekend weather. And when we return, we'll have your international headlines. We'll be right back.
This one's for the real ballers and shot callers, the Sisterhood of Women in Tech. They're discovering cures, building apps, and programming the blockchain. They're CEOs, worldwide hustlers who can make it rain. They're tearing down the old boys club and seeing big gains. Because when women in tech come together, you know they make that change.
Every day,
millions of people are connecting.
And even though we're overcoming obstacles,
watching each other's backs,
and banding together,
we should still make an effort.
we should still make an effort
to get to know each other
on a deeper level.
Father,
cosplayer,
mentor,
actor.
It's time we take a step forward.
It's time we take a step forward.
Come together
and discover
how accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
How prepared is your family if a hurricane shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a blizzard? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes. Make a plan today.
At least 18 people were injured after a plane crash at Canada's Toronto Pearson International Airport landed on the runway upside down. The Delta Airlines flight from Minneapolis with 80 people on board was described as, quote, hanging like bats inside the aircraft after its crash. CEO of the airport, Deborah Flint, credited the first responders on their response and ensured that no lives were lost. However, Flint has said 2 runways will remain closed for the next few days as they investigate the cause of the crash.
Pope Francis has been recently diagnosed with an upper respiratory polymicrobial infection and has been hospitalized for more intense treatment. The recent diagnosis has required a change in his treatment plan with a, quote, complex clinical picture, end quote. The Pope is currently unable to perform many of his required duties, and he has been encouraged to complete rest until he gains some of his strength back. His care team is unsure of what his recovery entails, but they are trying their best to get him back to normal as soon as possible.
A museum in Iran's capital, Tehran, is now known as one of the world's rarest treasure troves for art. For decades, this museum has kept masterpieces from artists such as Pablo Picasso, Vincent van Gogh, Andy Warhol, and Jackson Pollock in their basement. Only a small portion of the artworks that they have owned have been exhibited since the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The museum, which was built in 1977 under Farah Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran, who was then overthrown during the revolution. Pahlavi was passionate about art and wanted to use the museum to introduce modern art to Iranians and bring Iran closer to the international art scene. During the 1979 revolution, when Iran became an Islamic republic, many artworks were then deemed inappropriate for public display due to nudity, religious sensitivities, and political implications. Since then, many of these artworks have been locked away in a basement. The museum opened their Eye to Eye exhibition in October of 2024 with more than 15 works unveiled for the first time in an Iranian exhibition. Due to public demand, the exhibition has now been extended twice, running until January 2025. Some of the artworks shown in the exhibition include Warhol's portrait of Farah Pahlavi, Iran's Last Queen, Francis Bacon's 2 figures lying on a bed with attendants, Henry Moore's reclining figure series, Picasso's The Painter and His Model, and Van Gogh's Eternity's Gate. Challenges still remain for the museum as it operates on a tight budget, and shifting political parties make the museum a cultural hub more than a traditional museum. And after the break, a look at SNL's 50th anniversary episode, The Death of Duolingo, and Amelia Perez's controversy. We'll be right back.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
SNL just celebrated 50 years of shows. Here are some of the highlights. Some of the best actors returned to the show, including Will Ferrell, Pete Davidson, and Cecily Strong. Two talk show skits collide when Amy Poehler and Maya Rudolph of the Bronx Beat skit meet with Linda Richmond from Coffee Talk. The memorable character Colleen Rafferty was joined by Meryl Streep in a reenactment of one of SNL's fan favorite moments. Adam Sandler gave a heartfelt musical number honoring previous songs and giving much needed credit to Questlove, the original composers and producers of many songs in SNL. Towards the end, Andy Samberg acknowledges a lot of the problems faced during the production of each show, said problems include skits that didn't stick with the audience or jokes that are made in just poor taste.
Duo, the green cartoon owl mascot for the language learning app Duolingo, has died, and singer Dua Lipa is grieving. The brand announced Duo's passing on Tuesday and released a statement on X that reads, quote, "Authorities are currently investigating the cause of his death, and we are cooperating fully. TBH, he probably died waiting for you to do your lesson, but what do we know?" End quote. In a nod to Dua Lipa, the statement concluded with, quote, "We appreciate you respecting Dua Lipa's privacy at this time," end quote. Duolingo offers over 40 languages for users to learn and grew immensely in popularity during the pandemic. Lipa wrote back, quote, "Till death duo part," end quote. Besides sharing a similar name, these two go way back. There's been a long-running joke that Duo is in love with Dua Lipa, once going as far as to propose to her after one of her concerts. Dua Lipa's reaction to the sad news was organic and doesn't seem to be part of the paid brand partnership. As for Duo, it seems as though the owl was hit by a Cybertruck. According to a Duolingo representative, the app still lives on and is, quote, "as unhinged as ever," end quote.
The awards campaign for Oscar frontrunner hasn't quite gone the way Netflix executives had hoped. With 13 nominations and a history-making star, Emilia Perez leads among Oscar-nominated films this year, though universally being pawned among critics and audiences. The movie's titular character, played by Carla Sofia Gascon, found herself scrutinized online after offensive social media comments resurfaced. The movie is about a Mexican cartel leader who wants to effect their death due to undergoing gender-affirming procedures. Gascon became the first openly transgender performer to be nominated for an Academy Award in an acting category. Backlash arose after journalist Sarah Heige shared screenshots of some of Gascon's social media posts in which she criticized Muslims, George Floyd, and others. Gascon has apologized for her posts, but others involved with the film have distanced themselves and spoken publicly against the actress.
Definitely a difficult story there. I'm still circling back to the Duolingo owl.
R.I.P. Duo.
I did the best I could to hold it together in talking about the Duolingo. I guess my emotions got the better of me. You know,
I didn't know he got hit by a Cybertruck.
I didn't know that either, and the very first time that I found out that he was hit by a Cybertruck was when I was
On
just
air.
reading through it.
So we learn here too, guys.
We absolutely do, and that's definitely the case. So we are going to hand it back over to you, Lily, one more time for the rest of our weekend weather. How's it looking?
All right. Friday will start to get a little bit warmer with a high of 23 degrees and a low of 18. We will see those wind gusts slow down as well as 10 to 15 miles per hour. We may also see some flurries and small snow showers with a 24% chance of participation. Saturday, we will start to see it warm up even with a high of 30 degrees and a low of 21. It will also feel a bit warmer as we will have partly cloudy skies and sunshine throughout the day. Sunday, we do unfortunately lose the sun as we will be back to cloudy skies, but we will have a high of 31 degrees with a low of 29. We do also have a 12% chance for slight snow showers on Sunday. But that's all I have for you for your weekend weather.
Well, fingers crossed this is going to be one of our last icy cold weekends of the year. Maybe it's a weekend if it's going to be so cold outside, maybe stay inside and watch the Buffalo Bandits get back in the win column.
Watch Buffalo Bandits. There's a PWHL game at the KeyBank
Yes, there
Center.
is.
So if you got to go out for that, please.
Which I've said earlier that I believe that if that game goes well, it's going to be a trial run. Maybe Buffalo could get an expansion team.
I hope so. That would be amazing.
I think that would be fantastic, and we can only hope, fingers crossed,
Right.
Buffalo needs some winning hockey for
Bring
once.
back the Buffalo Buttes.
You're absolutely right. Well, thank you so much, Lily. That does it for News 11. Thank you to our behind-the-scenes crew. We'll be back next week. As always, thank you to everyone watching at home. Have a great night.